is we just talk, right? We start this conversation. And while we have a general idea of what we're going to talk about, just like Aisha and myself would do, the conversation just unfolds, right? So because we were supposed to do the last week of emotional self-care, I'm going to wait till Aisha comes back to be able to finish that with the two of us. But tonight's topic, what we're going to talk about tonight is a little bit of emotional self-care, social media self-care, and really a lot of things we've been talking about over the last month. Because as we know, we're coming into potential lockdown because the coronavirus it's sweeping its way through. And this isn't about pointing fingers at anybody. It's about the fact that psychologically, this can be really hard. I had somebody put it the other day, I think it was yesterday, that they were talking about how we're stuck with the life that we've chosen. And that may be good for some people. It may not be good for some people, right? Like some people haven't worked on being by themselves a lot. They usually go out a lot. So now, you know, you're asking them to stay home. That's really hard for me. I mean, oh my God, this is like heaven, which is also not good, right? But so the thing is, now that we're coming into this, especially when it comes to a self-care standpoint, it's really important to really balance ourselves, right? One of the things that I've heard quite a bit on the interwebs is about, why don't they just talk about how we can just be healthy and that's how we can fight this? Because the thing is, if you weren't healthy before this all started, there's very few people right now whose health has actually improved a lot without a focus, without a conscious choice to say, what am I going to do with this time? And so that's why, you know, vitamin D is very good, making sure you have the right vitamins. But even if you're taking vitamin D, you're commonly not going to see the effects of that in your body, in your metabolism, which is where it really counts, for months. So if you weren't doing that before, it's not going to help now, which is why they focus on keep the distance, wear a mask, and hand wash. Keep the distance is the big one. So as we come into this, I sort of look at this as when I was learning to run, and as you guys know, I like sports analogies. I'm a little bit of a jock, or I like to think so. But when I was learning to run, you would be coming up to a hill. You don't want to look to the top of the hill because that's like, I'm never going to get there. It's psychologically overwhelming. And then, you know, instead you have to bring your eyes to your feet, and you need to just go one foot in front of the other, in front of the other, in front of the other. So that's what I would want to share with people right now, or at least to get this conversation started, is that this is definitely a marathon. This is not a sprint. It was never going to be a sprint. While there may be a vaccine coming, and I'm not even getting into any anti-vax anything, the testing still isn't completed. Like what we are seeing is a lot of money being put towards something, which is speeding up the process. It doesn't mean those steps are going away. It just means that it's going a little faster. So that's where I want to start. So it's really, I mean, when it comes to emotional self-care and making sure that, you know, any time that you're spending on social media is well taken care of. And it's really, I think, a lot about mindset and what we're doing in our heads. So Hina, what do you think? What do you have to say about any of that? Is that ringing true with you at all?
Yes, actually, there were lots of things that you said that I had my own, oh yeah, and this is what I would want to say about that, moments when you were talking about it. Um, you're right about how we're stuck. It's also a mindset, like how we see that, right? If it's a really bad thing, or what can we do with this situation kind of thing now that we're stuck here? But we are stuck with the lives that we have, the choices that we've made that have brought us here. And sometimes we don't know where we stand with those choices and the life that we have until we are, at least in this situation, forced to be still with them.
Mm-hmm.
And when the lockdown first happened, I was relieved a little bit. In my own life, I've had I'm coming through or in a transition of a major life change. So just learning to live day to day, and who am I? What am I doing in this world? How am I going to manage all this? This is not what I thought I would look like. And now we are kind of stalled here in this place. I think in the beginning it was a relief because it helped me kind of be okay with my pace, because the world was slowing down and meeting me at my pace.
Mm.
There was less driving around, there was less drop off in schedules, or what should I be doing, this and that. There was nothing to do. So for a while, I mean, there was lots to do, but still there was a lot less that we had to kind of do. So in the beginning it was great for a little bit in terms of how it felt. I was also fortunate in the sense, I mean, one can say I didn't have too much to lose. Like I didn't have things that suddenly came to a halt. My
Yeah.
day-to-day life didn't suddenly change drastically. Some things changed, but enough was similar for me to kind of adjust.
Hmm.
But despite that, I feel like at some point that stillness starts to get to us. And that is when we kind of start to see what our life choices, what they make us feel. And that is when I think a lot of people can start to worry about it, or start to wonder if this was right or wrong, or things that they may have been in denial about. And now they're not able to kind of run away from them because they have an errand to run, or run away from them because their job is keeping them busy. So I think this is the place where some people who were, we're talking about, you said like somebody who's already healthy may have been able to continue those healthy practices, but others who may not have been, it it's not going, now they would have to make a conscious choice, and maybe what they had not been paying attention to is up in front of them and they can't ignore it anymore. And I think emotional health, social media health, all of those things became very highlighted because that's what was where most of us were operating from. There was a lot of emotional impact, and social media was mostly the place where people were able to still connect and socialize. So there was that overconsumption of ideas and conversations and things that food. I mean, like, what was that? Bread porn it became a
Yeah, yeah,
thing,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Sourdough.
So,
Yep.
right, right. I know
Yep.
some people who kind of completely got into it. It really brought some people out to do creative things, but all of that, like, eventually the novelty of things settles,
Yep.
and we come back into like the day-to-day regular, and it's all different. How do you go to day-to-day regular? So something I read this morning, it came through a teacher who's very well known. He's called Sadhguru, and the quote, I have it in front of me. I'm just going to read it. It says, "Lethargy essentially comes from overconsumption of either food or thought."
Mm.
And I think during the lockdown, and even after, like, things changing and things opening up a little bit, and there being a little bit more similar to before COVID environments, there is still an overconsumption of thought around this. And for those of us who are sensitive to too much stimulation by too much theories, we
Hmm.
might block ourselves because we don't want to be overstimulated and thrown off. But lethargy, I mean, I'm somebody who does can get consumed with too much thinking. I've been often said you think too much. But food, like with the whether we were doing it because we were bored and we eat our feelings like some of us do, or it gave us a chance to explore creativity, and we're cooking all this food, so we're also eating it. But it's all a way to kind of make ourselves move through the what are we going to do now,
Yeah.
um, and not knowing where to take action can sometimes become paralysis, or like the word I learned today, lethargy. Like
Yes.
doing what we need to do, but there's the energy with which we show up is not, like, we don't really know
Yeah.
what's going on. And I think we're all struggling in some way, shape, or form. Like I feel like you brought up a great analogy of running. When I started to learn to run, my biggest lesson was pacing myself
Mhm,
and the value of interval running, like not forcing to go continuously running, taking that pause of walking to catch my breath. And I think this is that time where we don't really know what our destination is, but we got to keep moving. And sometimes not knowing where we're going can become very exhausting.
yep.
And so self-love, self-care, in my case anyway, means taking that time, like interval of just walking or being still and catching my breath. And sometimes when not controlled, that can lead to lethargy because you've walked too long. Now it's hard for me to get back running again. So I
Yes.
think finding that balance, you said balance, I think just that's a continual process. It's never going to stop. Like, what pace are we moving at? Where are we going? Do we know where we're going? If we don't know where we're going, even if we don't know where we're going, we've got to keep moving.
Yes.
So there's a lot of various thoughts. So I'll hand it back to you. What do you think
Oh,
about
no, I think, uh, again, a number of things that you said there. You know, I guess I just want to ask one question. When you are in that lethargy from either too much food or too much thought, when you just allow yourself to be in that moment, and I mean, just feel whatever you're feeling, because you said you're a deep feeler. I'm a deep feeler. I can be a deep thinker. Um, like, do you feel, or is your body, are you connected enough with your body and your spirit that when you get to the place where it's like, okay, enough now, it's time to, and I would liken this, Forrest Gump, you know, Forrest Gump starts running one day and he's doing the Jackson Brown, he's running all over the country. And then just one day he goes,
okay, I'm done now.
I'm done. And then he goes home. But meanwhile, all these people are looking to him for all the answers. But the thing is that he was grieving. And a lot of this is really, emotional. We're not in control. You know, what do I do every day? God forbid, I'm lucky, knock on wood, I have income coming in, I have some sort of stability. I can't imagine what it's like living in a house where parents are working at home. They've also got 3 kids, uh, and you've got to somehow manage that flow. There's some people who are in the industry of restaurants and so on and so forth. And those are horrible situations. And I think that at least our government's trying to do what they can within balance to help people. But I guess my question back to you is, have you ever, through these last months, because this is an ongoing process, it was never really over. We could go outside in the summer and that was really great. But did you ever get to that running man point where it's like, okay, I'm done? Like when you were sitting on your couch too much and you were eating too much and you just go, yeah, no, I'm done. And then, so you allowed it to work itself out. And then you just said, okay, time to pivot, time to do something else because I'm bored with this. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yes, I do. And yes, that is very much, I am connected enough to get to that point where enough is enough. And I'm very grateful for that. Um, and that point has been worse in the past where I knew I'd hit my limit of I couldn't anymore. Like, I feel like it always feels difficult.
Yeah.
But if I look back at the period of time, and this is not just COVID time, this is even the year before, like I've had 2 years of a big shift in my life, and I've hit those rock bottom feeling like places many times, but it is always that realization of I can't keep doing this. This
Yeah.
can't keep going on. And so you get up. So I like to call myself, I'm an expert restarter. It doesn't matter how many times I feel like I feel like I'm not always moving at the pace I want.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm very excited by the pace that I've kind of managed, and I start to wonder if I'll be able to sustain it. And then soon enough, I start to slow down. I'm like, oh, there I go again. I'm slipping down again. But that's just the way it is. Like a friend of mine, I was actually talking to him just yesterday. he was talking to me about an illustration he often uses in his presentations. And it's about two balls that are moving across a path, and one ball is moving straight in a linear pace, another one is going up and down.
Mhm.
And you would think that the one that's going up and down is going to slow down because it has to cover more distance.
Mhm.
But the one that's moving up and down, every time it touches, it bounces and picks up momentum. So
Mhm.
despite covering more distance and having more ups and downs, it does actually get to the end faster. Not that there's a race, but
Yeah.
I think it analogies work great for me. If they're visual,
Yeah.
it's fantastic because it helps me kind of really see how nature is working the same way, whether it's gravity on a ball or whether it's us. It's just that we are in more control of ourselves than a ball would be,
Well,
right?
and yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is where our responsibility towards ourselves comes up. And knowing when we are in that downward spiral, surrendering to it, but not surrendering our responsibility in it.
Nice.
Like going
Mhm.
with the flow, but knowing that when we hit that place, it's up to us to kind of get up. And sometimes that means we'll need to ask for help. And
Yes.
what that can mean different things. Like asking for help is such a big part. And those of us, and I'm one of them, who like to think and know that we have a strong heart and we are strong people, emotionally resilient people, there is shame involved in asking for help.
Mm.
Like if I'm a
Yes.
strong person, people expect me to be resilient and not be broken.
Yeah.
But when I'm broken, I'm broken. I'm also human,
Yeah.
right? So there's all these, like a big part for me about self-love is accepting that we don't have it all on our own,
Yeah.
and then being willing to kind of ask for help. And
Mhm.
it is from experience, I can say, much easier said than done. I didn't
Mhm.
even know I was resisting help. I
Yeah.
did not know I was resisting help, because
Yeah.
when someone would say, why didn't you call me, I'm like, I don't, at that time when I really need the help, the idea that I can call somebody is not accessible to me,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that is where I think it's been helpful to build my spiritual connection with myself, that I am able to eventually pull myself out and then reconnect. So on some level, the restrictions caused by the lockdowns and the break from the day-to-day sort of predictable hamster wheel running,
Yes.
I was forced to see my limits. Like I thought I'm an introvert, so this is going to be okay. And for a
Yeah.
while it was,
Yeah.
but I hit my limit of introversion. I
Yeah.
hit my limit where I didn't realize the interaction, like how much I was getting from the energy exchange of seeing parents at my son's school or other people in a yoga studio or parents at my son's soccer.
Yeah.
Like those were all contributing to my extroversion need as well, my need
Yes.
for connection with other humans.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful that although I'm like a single mom, like I still have a change of pace every week when my son goes from my place to his dad's place. There is that change of pace, and I am in, like, I'm not saying this is a great scenario, I wish everybody to have this, but it was helpful for me to have a little bit of shift of scenery, because it
Yeah.
also helped me see how one week was better than the other week or worse than the other week. It gave me something to measure against. And
And
so a lot
in
of it is observation.
and like as a parent, because this is the thing, um my thing is like I love everything that you're saying there, that it's like the whole, like I find that I've gotten better at asking for help through this process, because at the beginning of all this I was going through a big trigger, and it's funny that you talk about the ball and the bounce, and that's how I did, that's why I call them bounces, is because I would go down, but I have also been doing this long enough to know I need to go down because I'm processing something. Because if
Yes.
I wasn't just like taking this in and processing and something's in there doing its thing, then I wasn't, I do come up and it's not like manic, like, oh, now I'm gonna, and not that there's anything wrong with that. These are all mental, there's mental health focus, right? And it's like, and the hardest thing is for us to ask, because we have this illusion that first of all, we control anything, because we really don't. And the other thing about this is nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. But this is where your values and our values as a community, like if you really care about helping people around you, then reach out to people around you. Like reach out to your neighbors if you don't know them. It's great to say in the, hey, how are you? I'm in so and so. I'm in so and so. We have older people in this building here. So it's like, you know, I'm a hugger. I can't hug people anymore. You know what I mean? So those things like that are really hard. But
Yes.
instead it's like, how can I connect with people in a way that they still can, you know, knock on my door or give me a call and I'll help them. But then as you were saying, Hina, is the fact that people we're programmed not to ask for help because we're not strong. And it's like I find that that stuff is
Yeah.
it's off-putting, right? And so I think that, you know, number one, we live in Canada, so I hope you have at least 3 pairs of boots. One, all of them keep your feet warm, because that's what matters coming into cold. One's for walking in snow, one's for walking on ice, and one's just, you know, your running shoes type thing. But
Right.
the thing is that we still have the outdoors, we still have, you know, movement matters. But it's also, I think the neat thing that you said is that you get this time on your own to process, because you're also dealing with your son. You're trying to also be a good example for your son,
Yes.
and you know, show him, you know, be that mother to him. So it's like we need to be putting our face masks on first, right? And I think that, at least for me, like I'm finally finding that I'm really done with, I'm done with TV. And you know what? Years ago, I never watched TV. But with this, I mean, who didn't watch Lion King at their Tiger King at the beginning of this craziness, right?
I heard about it enough to not watch it.
Oh my God, don't watch it. Yeah. But then
That's
this,
the thing. I heard about it enough to not watch it.
and the social dilemma came out again, perfectly showing us that we're being fed what's keeping our eyes. We are the product. They want us looking at the screen. They want us there. We are the product. And being able to take back that control, especially since seeing that documentary, again, as you were talking about before, these are all conscious choices. And it's not just the fact that we're spending time by ourselves. It's the fact that then we have to make our choice, and then we need to take that next week or that next 2 weeks to be able to, okay, I need to bring this into my daily life, so that when things are just mundane and we come out of this, I'm keeping those value-based choices that I've made, so that I'm not going to get caught up in stuff. I am going to spend time with people that I care about, and you know, develop my relationships and make sure that I don't, you know, hinder those. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
anyways, that's my 2 cents. What do you think about that? Or final thoughts? Because we are at 7:25. I love this. This is great. Again, that's why I love just talking, right? We just talk
Yeah.
and see where it goes.
Hey, I've listened to you and Aisha talking. I'm like, oh my God, I want to talk in this conversation. So it's like, I don't know. No, I'm not happy at all that Aisha's under the weather, but I wanted to be part of the conversation, and here I am. So
And maybe we can make them bigger. I mean, that's the great part about this, right? So yeah.
yeah, that's exactly. No, a lot of what you said, it rings true. There's just, there's it's hard to resist all the stimulation that's around us. Like I was not as much of a TV watcher about a year or so ago. I mean, I Netflix streaming, the binge watching. I had some of my shows that if I started watching, I had to finish them. Grey's Anatomy being one of them, and I have my slippery slopes, but I was very conscious about that not being my usual relaxation unwinding thing, because I know the slippery slope that it offers. But I did slip into it,
Yeah.
and I slipped into it with, like, I one thing is, I like to say I don't watch garbage TV. Like, everything I watch is thought provoking and stimulating, and reflects back metaphors or theories that I can apply in my own life, lessons that I can apply in my own life, or I'm learning something. It started with The Crown last December,
Yeah.
that I started watching just after New Year's Eve, when a friend, somebody whose choices I really kind of would listen to what she has to say about them. And then I just started watching more of things about the monarchy. So I learned a lot of things that I did not know earlier. So I do like, it is for me a consumption of thought. And I did recognize in that month where, while I was very much enjoying what I was learning, the overconsumption was making me really, really stagnant. And you said
Mhm,
something, movement matters. I
mhm.
think like everybody has different challenges. I really admire people like yourself, like my son's dad, who are very committed to that aspect of their health.
Yeah.
And that kind of almost changes the direction of the other things, like that energy infused into other parts of their life. I'd like to say that always works for me. It doesn't. And movement is often the first thing that's going to get like onto the back burner, not even anywhere nearby, right? So like on a day like today, it's just really hard for me to get out, but it does help when I can get myself to get out,
Yes,
right? And
absolutely.
sometimes it is helpful to have somebody around. I think it's one thing that I feel like it's hardest for people who are completely alone,
Hmm.
who are living completely alone, who don't necessarily have the means to, or the motivation. It's not about always having the means, the motivation to kind of pull themselves out into doing the things. And that is where it is very helpful to reach out and connect. I am not always the best person to reach out and connect. I'm can often be the person who's feeling all of those things myself, but I recover. And then, it's helpful to social media in that respect. Like
Yes.
I think all of those things that we're talking about, they are evil only if we've let them take control.
Yes.
I think if we can manage how much we consume, and sometimes okay to overconsume, but then balances out with having a little bit of fasting period,
Yes.
right? Having that, I think that is important. It's not going to stop. All these theories and all these different opinions about what the government is doing, whether we should have this lockdown or whether we should have masks or not, where we stand. There's so many conversations about this all the time. Whether we should like even for our own self, watch TV or not watch TV, what conversation are we participating in? I think it's not possible completely to block them out if we've
Hmm.
been engaged so far. I
Yes.
think there is importance to limit, and that is where that analogy of interval training with thing comes, right? With the running, like uh, too much, I'm going to spin out of control. And then, as a grown up, we do have the price to pay of spinning out of control is often high. And so we're not always able to kind of process all of it when we're in that low. But I think acknowledgement of that low is important. Like something I heard today was, in a difficult situation where falling apart is natural, um, we have to allow the falling apart to happen.
Yeah.
Don't try to be strong at that time. Be a mess
Yeah.
and let yourself be picked up. I mean, but sometimes if you're living alone, that becomes hard. So I learned that when I was living alone for the weeks that my son was at his dad's, I learned that I needed the days I spoke to somebody,
Yeah.
whether it was a Zoom call or whether I signed up for like I don't know, even like a tarot reading, like you
Yes.
and Aisha both do them,
Yeah.
and just the every Mondays or every Tuesdays became a little bit of a rhythm. It
Yeah.
gave me that rhythm. It gave me a little bit of pace, even if I had a really horrible week. Knowing that I was number 6 on
Yeah.
Aisha's call,
Yeah.
like I know she's speaking to me. So we have to find ways to feel connected
Yes.
with the things
Yes.
and people around us. And if social media is going to be something that's going to be our resource for a while coming
Yes.
up to the lockdown,
Yes.
then go do it. It's not bad. Like labeling it something that's bad or good, like see how it serves and then be aware of your level of consumption. So it doesn't get to the
Exactly.
place of lethargy. So yes, connectedness with oneself is really important. And I think that eventually is what brings us to connectedness with others as well.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're at 7:30 because I know this again, perfect match. I love it because this is it. We just start a conversation. And if you guys are interested in being part of this too, let me know because we can always have 4 people. God knows it'll go on for hours, but no, that's not true. We'll just, but I love everything that we've talked about now. And if anything, the one thing that both of us are here and a lot of people, a lot of healers, um, what's called sound healers, which are people that use their words to heal. The thing that's important right now is that you keep your heart and your mind in the same place. And if you feel a tug on either, make sure you manage, as you said, manage your social media and make it work for you. So thank you very much for being a guest host tonight, Hina, and I look forward to doing it again. And for anybody, let us know what you think in the comments, and this will be posted on, I'm also posting these on my YouTube channel as well, so I'll send a link to that. So always remember coming up, we're in for a marathon. When we're coming to a big hill, step by step, step by step. The small steps every day, they matter. Getting out of bed, getting moving, all of that stuff that we've been talking about for the last month on self-care, spiritual self-care. Make sure you and God or spirit or the universe, whoever, you know, even if it's a tree, which I talk to my trees as often as possible, do that, okay? Because we're also coming into darker days until, you know, September 21st. So that's going to also take a toll. So remember, take care of yourself. And if you need help, ask for it. I'm on here. Hina's here.
I'm here.
Aisha's here. Any of you that know any of us, reach out. Okay. Love you, dear.
Thank you for having me. It was great fun.
Yay. Okay. So we'll see you all next week on
Bye,
Just
everybody.
Talking.
Bye.
Yay. Okay.